Hey folks, welcome to another edition of My Car Guru. For those who are uninitiated, this is a program that I started this about 25 years ago on local talk radio, which it is broadcasted on still to this day. They asked me to come and do a 10-minute segment to talk about my business on the radio station. It was a deal that they offered different businesses. And so I said, well, okay, I'll give it a shot. Well, I didn't really enjoy it. I was really nervous. It was live radio and just didn't really like it that much. So I came home and I thought about it. I said, if I could do something more than 10 minutes, I don't want it to be an advertisement. I want it to be an informational show. I want people to be able to get something out of it that will improve their lives, even though I am a car dealer. So that's what I asked Paul Overby, who used to work at the station. Can I do this? He said, sure, knock yourself out. So we made it a one-time-a-week 23-minute show. You got commercial breaks and you got the weather and stuff like that. So that's what we did. Well, one day I just got this crazy idea. I said, Paul, do you think I could do it every day? He said, could you do it every day? I said, well, I can't drive up here every day, but I could drive up one time a week, do one live show, and then record 4 more. Well, okay, if you want to try it, we'll try it. So I did it. It was exhausting. I had a co-host, Bill Meade, and then Tim Cable, and they helped me. Bill Meade for the longest time, I guess, and then Tim came along, and we worked really well together, and then he passed away. And so I decided I just didn't want to go up there anymore, so I decided just to do it from my office. So that's what I'm doing right now. And then the podcast thing came along, and I decided, well, let's push it to a podcast. So now it's available all over the world through the internet. And when I say that, I'm not joking. I mean, there are listeners literally all over the world in countries that don't speak English, especially East Tennessee English. But there are listeners, and I get emails, and it's just amazing. It's been a lot of fun, quite frankly. But most of my messages come from across the U.S. and then local, and I have a lot of people that drive down, and if they're close enough, they come and we talk, and we talk antique cars and car deals, and sometimes they buy cars, which is great, but not required. But I say all that to say this. I had an amazing experience today. I got away from the house late and was heading out my driveway, and my phone rang. I looked at it, and it was from Spartanburg, South Carolina. I said, well, it could be somebody that I was going to have one of my old watches repaired with, because he's in Spartanburg. So I answered the phone. It wasn't him. It was absolutely a distinct pleasure to talk to this lady whose dad was the first Ford dealer in Greenville, Tennessee. Really one of the first Ford dealers east of Knoxville. Matter of fact, he was the only one for a while. In 1917, he became a Ford dealer. His name was Claude Hurley, and her name is Mary Margaret Bragdon, and she's 95 years old. And anytime I get a chance to talk to Miss Bragdon, it's a pleasure because she enlightens me on history. She is so sharp and so bright and cheerful, and she loves talking about her past and her daddy. And she was also my wife's favorite teacher at Greenville Junior High School. They call them middle schools now, but she was a 7th grade teacher. People were scared to death of her, but loved her to death. She was the mother of an entire gang of wonderful Bragdon children, including Rob Bragdon, who graduated with me at Greenville High School, and Brian Bragdon, who is a wonderful friend and one of our most loyal customers at Gateway Ford. So let me tell you a little bit about her dad. Around 1917, Mr. Claude Hurley became a Ford dealer. He was born in 1890 near Morristown, Tennessee. Claude had been offered the opportunity to locate his new business in Kingsport. How about Kingsport versus Greenville? You look at the size, there's no comparison. Kingsport's huge. But at the time, Kingsport was too small. Newport He was offered that one too, even smaller, so he chose Greenville. He had worked for another dealer in Morristown and decided to go out on his own and open his own shop. But Miss Bragdon talked about what was required back in the early days in order for Mr. Hurley, her dad, to have a Model T to sell. And so here's the way that worked. The incomplete cars, they didn't have the tires and wheels and stuff like that on them, and there were other things that were not on the vehicle. They were shipped in crates, basically. But they would arrive by train to Cincinnati, Ohio, and then they would be offloaded to horse-drawn wagons. They then traveled to Middlesboro, Kentucky, where they had to hire mule teams to transport the cars over the Cumberland Gap. And from there, more wagons were used to make the final push to Greenville. All of this, folks, for a car that sold for $345. Another interesting story that she told me, and I'd heard this before, but there was a picture in their showroom, and it was blown up. It was a large picture, and it had some very famous people on it. Because in 1918, this famous group of gentlemen rode a train to Bristol, Tennessee. They disembarked and traveled by a motorized caravan to Jonesboro, Tennessee, and spent the night camping outside of that town. The next day, they traveled to Greenville, down Main Street, to Summer Street, and stopped at Mr. Hurley's Greene County Motor Company. And that photograph recording that momentous event hung on a wall in the showroom of that dealership for many years, but unfortunately, it has been lost to time. Now, that would have been a keeper for sure, because the individuals were three of the most famous men in the world at the time. Their names, Henry Ford, Harvey Firestone, and Thomas Edison. After they left Greenville, they went to Newport, stopped at that dealership down there, and then headed up the French Broad River to a place called Hot Springs, which is still there. It was devastated by the floods that came through from Helene, but it's recovering. But they camped out there, except Thomas Edison was too tired and didn't want to sleep in a tent. So he proceeded on in one of the vehicles to the Grove Park Inn in Asheville, North Carolina. And if you go to the Grove Park Inn, if you're not from here, you just need to Google it so you can see what the Grove, Grove, Park Inn looks like. It's amazing. It's a wonderful place to stay. It's incredible. You know, it's not as incredible, I guess, as Biltmore House, which is also there in Asheville, North Carolina, but it's pretty darn incredible. And in the hallway, just right behind one of the fireplaces, by the way, they burn 8-foot-long logs in the fireplaces at each end of the grand foyer, I guess you'd call it. But not too many steps from there are pictures, a row of pictures, and one of those pictures is Henry Ford, Harvey Firestone, and Thomas Edison standing, I guess, with somebody else, I can't remember who it was, in front of the Grove Park Inn. And that's the end of that story. I'll be back in just 1 minute. You can tell I love this stuff, this history stuff. My wife says, "You sure think about the past a lot." And I say, yep, I can't help myself. I inherited that gene, I guess. Another gene that I inherited is an automotive bug. And so aren't you glad? So today we're going to talk about the mailbag a little bit. I've got a bunch of questions that have been sent to me. Really, I've been building them up. I got quite the build up here. So I thought I'd go through and talk about some of these that I think may apply to you. One of the questions that I got was, what is the biggest quality issue on vehicles today? That's kind of summarizing. They were having problems with their vehicle, just lots of buggy things, just different things. But almost all of it had to do with electronics. And I said, well, that is probably the most common failure right now. And some of these electronic parts, even headlights and the entertainment screens, they have gotten so expensive that you really need to consider buying an extended service agreement, extended warranty, whatever you want to call it, if you intend on keeping the car for a long time. If you are going to trade before the warranty expires, you're fine. But if you have an infotainment issue or one of the very expensive body control module, engine control module, these are the little computers in the car. There's many of them. They control everything. At one time when you hit your power window switch, the window would just go down because it has a current going to it. Well, not anymore. I mean, the switch. Not anymore. The switch goes to the body control module, which says, Lenny's pushing lightly on this, so he obviously doesn't want the window to go all the way down. So we're going to, as soon as he takes his finger off of it, then we're going to stop the window. But if he pushes it really hard all the way down, then we know he wants it to go all the way down. That's what's going on, and it happens really quickly. But do you think that's expensive? You would be right. We replaced an infotainment screen on a vehicle the other day. $1,400. Thank goodness warranty paid for it, and they do go bad. You know what happens? What happens 20 years from now, 30 years from now? People got what they think is a collector car. Let's say it's a Camaro, and it's got all this digital stuff, and the screen goes blank, or one of these modules fails. Where are they going to find one? Who's going to be able to work on it? All the programming changes. So that I think the collector car field is really going to change a lot. But yeah, the number one quality issue has to do with electronics. And the only defense against that is either don't buy cars or buy some type of extended protection or trade it before it goes out of warranty. Okay, let's see. How can you tell? Okay, how can you tell if a used car was a lemon? Well, one of the things that you can do is pull a Carfax or an auto check and see if there's any record that the thing was involved in a buyback by the manufacturer. It will actually use that term, buyback. Now, if it was a lemon and it was bought back from the factory and then resold, is that bad? Well, you may think it's bad off the cuff, but it's really not. It just means that the manufacturer fixed the problem. They take them to a dealer, or the manufacturer buys it back. They take it back to Detroit. They take it back to the tech center, or they take it to a dealership that they have a relationship with, and they find the problem using their engineers, and then they put it back on the market and sell it. And that's legal. But it could impact, let's say you buy one of those cars, and then you trade it a few years later. Somebody pulls a Carfax, says it was a buyback, it's going to set off all kinds of alarm bells. So I would rather know in advance that it was a buyback so that I could avoid it. Okay, I had a really interesting letter, and it was long, from a lady. She's just reviewed her entire experience with another dealer in the Tri-Cities. And she had gone in to buy a car. She knew her credit wasn't great. And the dealership did something called a spot delivery. And that's when they let the customer have the car. The customer signs preliminary paperwork, might even sign a finance contract. But the dealership says, now, we still have to get final approval on this. We're going to go ahead and let you take the car. If that ever happens to you, don't take the car. I know you want to. You're excited. The salesperson really wants you to take it because he thinks that'll lock you down in case, you have to come back and maybe pay more money down, or, they're going to increase the payment because the interest rate goes up. Folks, avoid a spot delivery, please. If you're not 100% approved, then just y'all call me if I get approved. I'm not taking the car. Spot deliveries are, what's the insurance situation? Are they putting a dealer tag on the vehicle where you'd be covered by their insurance? Or are they switching your tags over? If they are, you're not driving an insured car unless you have drive other car coverage through your insurance company. It's just a risky proposition. Do you think somebody has ever driven off in a new car and wrecked it? Yes. I don't know how many times it's happened to me in 46 years, but it happens. So, yeah, spot delivery is when you're not approved. They indicate that you probably will be, with the emphasis on probably. but it's probably not in many cases. So don't take the car, wait till you get fully approved. But you know, if you sign a contract and you don't sign some type of a bailment agreement, something that says that, you have to bring this back if you're not approved. If you have a signed contract, bank contract, and you have a bill of sale, and they give you that paperwork and you drive off with the keys, guess what? You own the car, whether they can't get you financed or not. And if they call you back and say, well, we couldn't get it financed, you tell them, that's your problem, not my problem. Best thing to do if you get into a situation like that and you're getting jacked around is just call the guru, 423-552-2020, and I'll put you on the right path to get that problem solved. Okay, what else? Oh, yeah, we got a F-150 Lightning in. That's an electric vehicle. We got a couple Mach-E's in. That's the Mustang Mach-E. It's an electric car. And so, this always gets me concerned because the market in East Tennessee where we live is not real hot on EVs. And typically, if we sell one of these, which we will, it'll be to somebody from Knoxville or Nashville or Atlanta, or somebody will come up and get it because they have better access to chargers. They've got a lot of friends that have EVs, and they're not afraid of them. So, but occasionally we'll have somebody say, well, what's the real difference in cost, as far as the cost to fill it up with electrons? And I did some calculations not too long ago. I was driving a Nissan Aria, which we had in stock. Well, matter of fact, I leased that thing for a year. Nissan came out with a special deal. It was ridiculous. I could lease that thing for, let's see, what was it? $300 a month for a year. Now, I could only put 10,000 miles on it, but that was worth it just for the experiment. So that's what I did. And so when I filled it up at home with electricity, based on the kilowatt charges that I had, kilowatt per hour charges that I have on my electric bill, I could go from a very low state of charge to a full charge for about $6. So that was about 12 to 16 cents per kilowatt hour. Now, if you go to one of these level 3 chargers, that's the fast chargers. That'll charge your vehicle to 80%, from 0 to 80% in about, 30 minutes. If it's an F-150 Lightning, it'll take a little bit longer because it's a lot bigger battery. But that's 50 to 66 cents per kilowatt hour, which could cost, $45 to $60, depending on, the capacity of your battery. Because the battery, if you look on the window sticker, it tells you how many, what kilowatt battery you have. And I think in the Aria, it was like, I think 70, 75. I think in the Lightning, it's like over 100. So, bigger vehicle, bigger battery. But it's not free. And what kind of premium do you have to pay for an EV? Well, right now, more than likely, you don't have to pay any premium because not many people want them. But Teslas are starting to sell again. Tesla stock is back up. Since Elon has maybe backed off on the Doge thing a little bit, all of the irate liberals are starting to buy Teslas again. Okay, I had another question. Let's see what tires should I buy for my car? Don't change sizes of your tires. You can change brands, okay, but don't change sizes. You see a lot of people that buy trucks, and they buy extra big wheels, and they buy oversized tires, and some vehicles you can reprogram the speedometer through the onboard computer, but most vehicles you can't. They don't want to give you access. The manufacturers don't want to give you access to that. So your speedometer is going to be off, and you're going to put extra stresses on your driveline components. But, a lot of people think they look good. They have to, on these lifted trucks and lifted SUVs and Jeeps and stuff like that. But if you're just driving an everyday car, I'm a big Michelin fan. I know there are a lot of other good tires. If I ever take tires off of one of my personal vehicles, I put Michelin back on it. I just have good experience with them. And they seem to balance out easier. A lot of tires that you put them on a car and customers will bring them back saying, I got kind of a vibration in my steering wheel. And sometimes you have to balance them several times if they're cheaply made tires. Now, many of the tires that you buy at Walmart and different places like that are lower grade tires. They're just not the same quality. Hoping that I don't get sued by Walmart, but prove me wrong, Wally World. Okay, I'll take my last break. I'll be back here in just a minute. I get a lot of phone calls from people that bought a car and then they come out from under the anesthetic and they call me and said, I think I messed up. What do I do? Folks, if you mess up, then act quickly. Review your paperwork when you get home. Just go over it. You're all excited. You want to look at the owner's manual. You want to get your radio programmed. You want to show it off to your neighbors and stuff. But at some point within 24 hours when you buy your car, drag out all the paperwork and look at it. Make sure the numbers are what you thought they were. And if you bought a car on a Saturday, you be waiting there for them on Monday morning. They hate that. But that's when you take care of it. Don't wait a week. Don't wait any more days than you possibly have to go in and try to resolve a situation, because they'll throw all kinds of excuses at you. Now, this isn't all dealerships. I hope that is understood, that most dealerships are honest, do it right. Some of their salesperson people may be sleazy, but the dealers, the general managers, the people that run the store, they don't want anything to hurt their reputation. They want you to be happy, but there are some that could care less. Once they get your money, see ya. They're not concerned about you anymore. And quite frankly, they're going to be the ones that are going to throw all kinds of obstacles in front of you. And they're going to say, well, we've already paid off your trade, or we've already sent all this paperwork in. No, they haven't. If you go there soon enough, it's still back there in the office. They can pull all that paperwork back out and do it all over again if you don't want that warranty, or if you don't want that gap, or you didn't get what you thought you were supposed to be getting for your trade-in. They can fix it. And they will if you went to the right place. If you didn't go to the right place, you'll know it real quickly, because they'll start stalling. You won't get straight answers. They'll say, well, he's off today. No, he's hiding. He's back there in the parts department waiting for you to leave. Ask to speak to the GM, to the executive sales manager, even the office manager. Get your complaint down and get it in writing. Send them a letter. Drop off a letter. But don't blast them on Facebook yet, or don't go ahead and give them a terrible Google rating, because that's your leverage. If you already do that, then they won't want to help you. A lot of them won't. Well, I'm out of time, as usual. If you need me, call me 423-552-2020 or send me an email to LennyLawson2020@gmail.com, and I'll see you on the next My Car Guru.